Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been here. So we're here now, though, and we're so excited to,
Yay!
yay! We're so excited to be here. And thanks, everybody, for being patient with us. And I'm just going to say right now, next week, we're going to have a really big announcement. So make sure you tune in so that you hear that announcement. That includes you guys. No, I'm just teasing. You guys already
What
know.
could it be? Hmm.
Don't know.
Hmm.
Don't know. But it's
Big announcement.
exciting.
It's
How you
big
guys
and
doing?
exciting.
What's that?
Big and exciting, just like me.
Lynda, I love the eye roll. Yeah. How's everyone? How's Trevor? How's Lynda? How are you guys?
I'm doing good. Yeah. So my job, I work kind of an odd schedule. So uh, every so often I have to work 2 Sundays in a row, which is why I've been, we kind of miss a couple of weeks in a row there.
Yeah.
And then I get to come back. So I just finished that. So yeah, looking forward to doing some more shows here this next few weeks, and really excited to hear this big announcement though, for sure. So
I know. Yeah. Well, we've decided we're just not going to, include you in the telling ahead of time. I'm just teasing.
well, figures. And the
Trevor
odd
knows,
man.
guys. Don't send us hate mail. Trevor knows. He knows. He knows. But we're excited to announce it to you guys who don't know. How you doing, Lynda?
I'm doing okay. I've had some challenging times lately, but
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm okay. Well, I lost a friend from the studio that I do the show at, so that was quite a shock. He was only 57, which is really young, so it was a real shock, and I think all of us were just flabbergasted, and it took us a long time to really come to terms with it. But yeah, that and some health stuff and all that stuff. But you know what? It's all good because next week we're going to have a really big announcement and everything's going to be fine.
And it's all going to go away. Everything bad is going to go away because of it,
Exactly.
Makes
right?
everything better. Just
Exactly.
Everything. Just boom. It'll be like, bippity boppity boo. It's all
That's
good.
right.
Right?
That's right.
Here, I got
That's
my
right.
magic wand. Bippity boppity boo.
Oh,
how are you, Kathy? What have you been up to?
I'm good. I'm good. Although this is funny. So I've been like getting up in the mornings. So I'm not normally this type of person that does something like a TikTok challenge or anything like that. I don't eat Tide Pods or, whatever it is that
You're missing out.
right. But I decided what I was going to do. I did see this challenge where it's like you get up and 30 minutes after you wake up, you have, or within 30 minutes of waking up, you have like 30 grams of protein. And then you exercise for 30 minutes, or like you go for like nothing dramatic, but like you go for a walk for 30 minutes or whatever. So it's like the 30-30-30 challenge. And I thought, I could do something like that because it's been a year and a half since I quit smoking. I can go for long walks now. Like my lungs are like happy little critters, So I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. So I've been doing that. And then this one morning I did really good. I got up, I did something like almost 5 kilometers, like before some ridiculous time in the morning, like 8:30 in the morning or something like that. I was just chugging it. I come home, I sit down, have my coffee, and I had my feet up on the ottoman, I guess, and my foot fell asleep. So I got up, not thinking, I thought, okay, whatever, I'll walk it off. But my foot did not agree with me. And it went like that. Yeah, it just twisted because I stepped on it while it was still asleep, right? So my foot did not feel the floor, but the rest of my body did. And as I'm sprawled out and, my son's just like debating, okay, do I laugh? Is this the appropriate moment to laugh or should I wait until we get her up off the floor? So thankfully, for his own safety, he waited till we got up off the floor. And fixed all the things that my fall decided to break on top of it. But yeah, so I badly sprained my foot, and I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, I finally get the initiative to like do this, like, walk in the mornings and all of that. And now, but I think I'm going to start again probably in the next day or two, because I can sort of walk on it, and so I figure even if I'm like, looking like the guy from Usual Suspects as I'm walking down the street, I'm good. I'm just gonna
Well, make sure you soak your foot in a coffee bath before you take a walk, and then
right.
maybe it'll wake up a little bit. I don't know.
It'll wake up my foot, and my foot will be happy.
Oh my gosh. That's crappy. That's just so crappy. I can imagine it was something from a Monty Python skit. And
oh, it was, and I felt so stupid because you just did this like super long walk, right? And then you come home and fucking fall, like by walking to the kitchen. And you're just like,
yeah.
It happens to everybody. I mean, that's one of the most common calls that I go on as a firefighter are fall patients. I mean, generally they're over 70, but it happens to us. I honestly, I mean, I got up in the middle of the night. I can't remember. I was going, and I needed to go downstairs for something. I can't remember what it was, and I just was kind of half asleep and going down the stairs, and it was dark. I didn't bother to turn on the light, and I stepped a little bit too far forward, and my foot slipped off the front, the edge of one of the stairs, and whoop, down I went. And I did one of those like weird splits where like your one leg goes forward and the other leg goes back, because my other leg was still up on top, and I'm not that flexible. But I was like,
you are now.
I am now. Man, I used to be all I could think was like, thank goodness nobody saw that.
Yeah.
And then I realized that my security camera was pointing right at the staircase. I got to go back and watch it. So I was like, oh, yep, it got me. So
yeah, there I go.
I got lucky because I didn't get really hurt that bad. Just it didn't feel good in the moment, and I kind of sat there for like 5 minutes just shaking my head like, what the heck happened?
Yeah. That's how I was with my ankle. My son's like, are you okay? I'm just like,
so we just blame it on a ghost. It was a ghost pushing me down.
It was haunted. If something was haunted, that was it. Speaking of haunted, we're going to be talking about survival tips for those who are spiritually inclined, I guess, like us, or people that are paranormal investigators, people that do my job, people that are just, they feel like they are maybe haunted, or maybe that they have things that are attached to them, or maybe they're just extremely sensitive, or they're empathic or intuitive, or whatever it is. So I'm actually really looking forward to this topic. So here's my question for you guys. As paranormal investigators with your team, do you have a ritual at all as a team to protect you on investigations, or is it more of an individual thing if you guys are when you're heading onto a case?
Go for it, Trevor.
Well, thank you. So short answer, no, we don't have a team ritual. I think because, and the thing about it is I think that when we talk about spirituality and spiritual protection, it's no different than cleansing somebody's home or anything like that. It's really based on your belief system, and kind of what you have that faith in, that is going to work for you. And the key is and I'm a firm believer in this. The key is faith. And you've got to know that, whatever it is that you do. I mean, for me, mine is super simple. I don't, mine is more of a, just kind of like a really short meditation, kind of a pre-mindset type thing, and maybe even a short prayer before I go in. to, just for my spiritual protection. I know other people that have, things that they'll wear around their neck, or, things like that. And what it comes down to is like, what do you believe is going to work for you? Because
Right.
it's really kind of a mind game when it comes to spiritual protection and pretty much anything spiritual. I mean, they're not physical beings, so, but that, and it's kind of interesting because, the same thing as spirit is, outside the body. That's what we have inside our bodies as well, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what you're trying to channel there with, when I say faith, that mindset, that prayer, whatever it is that you believe in is going to
100%.
work for you. And
yeah.
So
yeah. How about you, Lynda?
Well, that was really well said, because basically
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. I have seen other teams, and we worked with other teams that do things like bathe themselves in smoke from sage, or Palo Santo, or things like that, to add an extra layer of protection and all of that. And some have sprinkled holy water around them or on them. So it really all depends, because we're all individual, and we all have our own way of protecting ourselves, and ways and things that we do that make us feel safe. And I think that's pretty much what you just said too. So yeah, we don't have a major big ritual, but we
Yeah.
do remind each other to protect ourselves, because often,
Right.
you get to some place and you're in a hurry or whatever, and you really can't wait to get in. So you have to remind each other, oh, hold on. Don't, before you go in, protect yourself in whatever way you feel safe.
I always say it doesn't really matter what it is that you believe in. I mean, for me, I'm very Christian, very Catholic. I had that Catholic upbringing, which is funny because I am also a psychic. So that, I don't know how people feel about that, but it is what it is. It's for me, right? But I've always said to have something that you have faith in, and and that's going to be the most important. Whatever your faith is, like, now you can have faith in yourself, right? You can have faith in God. You can have whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but have a strong faith in that, and that itself too will very much protect you. I actually, when we were doing investigations, so I've always been very drawn to Egypt, and a lot of, just, it was just one of those things. It's kind of hard to explain, like, here, and, it's kind of personal in that extent that I don't really want to, publicly go into it. But for me, it was very, very strong. And so one of the things I did do is I did get the Ankh, along with the scarab, tattooed right onto me. And that made me, for me, that was my protection. It was like an ongoing lifetime type of protection. And that's what I have on me. It was my very first tattoo, and I don't know if that was the smartest thing that I could have done, because I put it on my rib cage, like on my side, like my whole side right here.
that felt great.
There's no words to describe the happiness I was feeling near the last hour out of 6 or 7. There are literally no words to describe that feeling. Pure joy, just pure joy. But yeah, I mean, we hear about this all the time, that a lot of people, they a lot of people do suffer from, whether they're, they can't go into a mall, maybe because they feel like they're too empathic, or they feel like they're, picking up energies, or maybe perhaps they're limiting themselves in some ways. And I thought that this would be an interesting topic, because what are some of the ways that you have heard about people protecting themselves besides what you guys do? Because I do feel, we're all going to have our individual ways. And for me, I also pray and, put out that energy, like, just, I ask my guides, my angels to protect me. But what ways have you guys heard of other people? Like, what would you suggest to somebody?
Good question.
Your turn to go first, Lynda.
You know what? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, ladies first.
Oh God, you hear of all kinds of things that people do. You mentioned one very important one before, wearing something like, for example, a cross, or wearing something like black tourmaline. Very, very popular. People will do that because they'll wear a crystal that absorbs negative energy, and they'll also put up some sort of psychological barrier between themselves and whatever else is coming at them.
Yeah.
Because if you're a very sensitive person, you're going to pick up on those subtleties of energy, in your environment. And often that can really screw around with you. So, a lot of people do that. They put up psychological barriers so that all of those thoughts, all of those feelings don't permeate that particular psychological barrier. People do all kinds of things. They pray, they surround themselves with white light, they surround themselves with an impermeable barrier, so that, on the outside of the barrier is a mirror. And inside, so that whatever comes at them, it'll see itself and then repel and go away. So those are some of the ones that I've heard of. And they're also some of the ones that, we talk to people about who are maybe plagued with too much information all the time that they can't handle. Yeah.
One of the things too, as you were saying, one of the, like, for a good mineral or a crystal or whatever, hematite works excellent, especially a hematite ring, because once it's got too much energy to it, or too much, if it does absorb a lot of negativity or absorbs a lot of energy, it actually just cracks apart. And it will just kind of burst apart, and that's the end of that. And you can do with the pieces what you want. I mean, some people just throw them away. Some people bury them, right? Because the earth can actually absorb an awful lot of energy. And so when you're burying things, it can make a big difference. And it just sort of cleanses, it cleanses that, right? It removes it. It allows that energy, instead of just staying stuck, it helps cleanse it out. And, I like the mirror one too. That I think that's a really good one. I've suggested that to people before, and as well. And also the Seal of Solomon can really help a lot of times. And I've suggested that to a few people, where, print it out, even laminate it if you want to laminate it or whatever. And, a lot of times too, I actually have a friend who, whose coworker is extremely nasty. And I said, I suggested, use the Seal of Solomon and cleanse the area by just saying, we only peace, love, and prosperity can enter this space. And, that should resonate throughout the room, so that you feel at the very least safe while you're in your office, or, you know what I mean? So that negativity can't enter into your office and, and just ruin your day with her negative crap. Right? Like, and it's funny because a lot of times too, if people cleanse their house or they do a cleansing, and we've talked about this before, where, when you do a cleansing and people that are not resonating with the cleansing. So basically they're those type of negative people, or they've got a negative energy. They're going to feel uncomfortable in a cleansed area. And that in itself is going to be, spiritually powerful for you as a person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Trev? You hear anything?
Well, it's interesting that, we turned to this part of the topic. I had a gal that I knew. She actually just recently passed away, but she kind of she helped me through a pretty dark time that I was having. And I don't know what she would call herself, a spiritual healer, as she kind of had a lot of these gifts. But she really taught me a lot about gifts that I have, and how to try to control some of those things, kind of what we're talking about. Because one of the problems that I have is I struggle in large crowds. I really don't like being around a lot of people, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But a lot of it was just it was just too much emotion. So one of the things that she taught me to do with that was being able to turn down the volume, so to speak. And when we talk about, when I talk about mindset and meditation and things like that, and a lot of this stuff is just envisioning a switch or a dial or something, that is on you, that you can make a motion and
I like that.
it's going to turn it down, right? Or turning it down or turning it off, turning it back on, whatever. But you have control over that. So that if you need to go into a location and it's just too much, turn down the volume. That was something that helped me out quite a bit. You talked about the earth and how it's able to absorb so much energy, and we talk about grounding. One of the things that she had this kind of a big fish bowl, and she had collected dirt from like a forest and a farm and a river and the beach and all these different mountains, all these different places. And she collected it into this big bowl. And what was like the first thing she did when I sat down, she plopped this bowl in my lap. She said, "Want to stick your fingers in my dirt?" I was like, and I'm like, "No, not really." And she's like, "No, go ahead, try it." And so I did, and really, it was amazingly relaxing and soothing. Because it really, I think, was pulling out a lot of that negativity. And so to this day, when I go out to the woods, I will go out into the river and I take my shoes off and I just bury my feet in the dirt, and it is just absolutely amazing how therapeutic and how calming it is. Another thing that she talked about, and this is where I was like, okay, you're kind of losing me here, but she talked a lot about chakras and the importance of aligning those chakras, because when they get out of alignment and it's kind of like your spine, right? It's like, yeah, that doesn't feel right. And she talked about there's like certain things that you can do to align your chakra and stuff. But the one that she said, the simplest method that she could teach me was, again, you're envisioning it. But the way, I guess the best way I can explain it is imagine yourself in a sleeping bag, and the zipper's way down there at your feet. And so you got to have to zip up your zipper, all the way up over your head, and envision those chakras coming into an alignment.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
There's the pull method too, where you imagine a white light starting in at the crown. And as it's coming through, everything, is like magnetized to the white light. And so everything automatically shifts as it's coming through your body and into the earth and attaching to, the earth energy like Gaia.
Yeah. We talk about, you talked about the barriers and things like that. She talked a lot about that, those spiritual barriers to put up, and she just imagine that however you want to imagine it, you're inside a bubble, or, you just got this protection that's around you at all times. Another big one when we talk about people who are really empathic and stuff is about courting, like, extension cords, that, people, whether they realize it or not, they can leech energy from you.
100%.
If you're, especially if you're like an empath or something like that, for whatever reason, you've got a lot of outlets. And so people just attach these cords to you all the time, and it drains you. And you may not realize it. They may not realize it. But she taught me basically how to get rid of those cords. And she talked about, now he said, envision your version of heaven. What does heaven look like to you?
Right.
Because I believe heaven's going to look different for everybody. Otherwise, it wouldn't be heaven. But he said, now imagine God's pool. Like he has a pool, because he likes to swim. Who doesn't? And that pristine water, right? And diving into that water and just swimming through and letting those cords be washed off, as you go through. I thought that was pretty cool too. She had so much great advice, and it takes a little bit of practice. It takes a little bit of imagination. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I couldn't argue with the results. Because, you start feeling better. You notice that you're having a lot much fewer negative thoughts, and you're not feeling so drained and tired all the time. So really, really important stuff, especially people who don't really understand, that they may have a gift. And that was my problem. I really didn't understand what was going on. But those tricks kind of help me. So hopefully somebody can benefit from that, and it'll help them. So.
It's interesting because what you were saying about some people don't realize that they have a gift, and we do get that, quite often as investigators, where, you do get people that do have such a high empathic or intuitive ability, but they might not know exactly how to deal with it or what exactly is happening. And a lot of times, especially, if it's there's, let's say, drugs or alcohol that are involved, sometimes it's used to silence what they're receiving. Sometimes it's used to, just because of the fact that that's a part of their addiction, whatever it is. Right. But it can, play such a huge part of making you feel sometimes like you're not quite aligned with everybody else. You might feel like you're haunted, or you might feel like you're, whatever you want to call it, possessed or being attacked, or, however, whatever name you want to label it. Right. We actually get that a lot too with teenagers. We would get that a lot, when we were investigating, is with the teenagers, and especially because they really didn't understand a lot that was happening to them. But one of the other things too is a lot of times there was hauntings that, they were being haunted, but once the people discovered, or once they were able to have some sort of confirmation or maybe validation, that they did have some sort of abilities, as well, it seemed to really help with the hauntings, simply because it was like an acceptance of this. And I feel very strongly that a lot of times we can create that energy, that is going on. But also too, is if you think about it this way, let's say somebody's developing their abilities, or they might not even really recognize that they do have abilities. What can happen, but they've got all of this stuff that's going on around them and in their heads, and they're just not feeling quite earthbound all the time, like they're not always grounded, right? And spirit gets really excited, or the spirits can sometimes get really excited, especially, human spirits or whatever. And they see these people as like brighter lights. And so sometimes they can tend to be a little bit more active around them. And because they don't quite understand that person isn't fully understanding what's happening. And so they'll be a little bit more active, kind of like, hey, I'm here. Hey, 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 hey. And they're not getting a response, right? So they might get a little bit more active and a little bit more active. And I've seen that happen a few times also. And I mean, in that degree. So how do you protect yourself, right? Like that's, those are the things, like, how do you protect that, or how do you stop that? And that's a lot of times where, you can either acknowledge the fact, like, okay, I've got some things that are going on here. Maybe I need to have some sort of spiritual counseling. Maybe I need to talk to somebody. Maybe I need a paranormal group. Maybe I need to just meditate and get more grounded with myself. And I think that that's one of the things that people neglect to really do, is we always look for external answers, where those answers are right here. Right here.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
99% of the time they're sitting right here, and all we have to do is access them, right?
Yeah. And sometimes it takes somebody to help show you that, you know.
It
For
does,
me,
yeah.
you know, everything was hunky-dory with me until I started doing paranormal investigations, which opened up something. The only way I can describe it was, and I was super confused, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. You know, I wasn't seeing things. I wasn't necessarily like physically hearing things or anything like that, but boy, was I feeling things. You know, we were doing a tour and, you know, in Oregon, and I remember like they had all these people, they were talking about how psychic they were and how in tune they were. And I'm like, you guys, okay, whatever. Well, we were kind of doing a mock investigation of this hotel. And we were in a room where I think the lady somebody committed suicide in that room. And they're like, okay, all you psychics out there, you know, where did she commit
That's just
suicide?
like a whole headache of stuff, eh?
Right. And I'm like, it's like, man, I don't know, you're weird, you know? And so people were kind of filtering out, they were doing their thing. And I was just sitting there on the bed, just like, this was like one of my first experiences as an investigator, right? I'm like, it was a ghost conference. Anyway, so I got up and started wandering around, and I walked into the bathroom, and it was like I literally felt like I walked into a hornet's nest. Like I felt like I was being stung, like all over. And I was like, whoa. And the guy looked at me and goes, what? And I was like, did she do it right here? And he's like, yeah, this is where they found it, you know? And I was like, okay, that's weird, you know? And after that, it was just one thing after another. But the problem that I ran into was that pretty soon, it was, I couldn't get away from it. And I started to feel like, you remember like those old analog TVs, you know, when you turn it on the wrong channel, it just had that fuzz white noise thing. You know, anybody that's a younger viewer is not going to have any idea what I'm talking about. But it was kind of like somebody was just turning the poltergeist TV, yes. But somebody was turning that white noise volume up louder and louder and louder, and it was getting so overwhelming that I couldn't concentrate, you know, and I couldn't focus, and it was just affecting everything. And so, you know, I went to this lady actually, she actually came to my wife and inquired about me and said, hey, you need to send him over to my place. I need to help him out. You know, I never even met her. It was pretty cool. You know, so, you know, being able to shut that down or turn it way down was huge, because I had no idea what was happening. All I could tell you is like, I was like spot on some really weird things that I'd never heard about. And people were asking like, well, what do you think about this? I was like, oh, they're like, holy cow, you're right. I was like, I don't know. It's just weird. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, and there is a lot of stuff, you know, like I said, there's a lot of answers within and stuff. And, you know, every once in a while, I'll still have that sensation where everything is just getting louder and louder and louder. And I have to remove myself, you know, and I have to go in and kind of find that I got to kind of realign everything, get away, just kind of get that meditation, that focus back. But, you know, the thing about it is if anybody's having those type of experiences, I mean, these things that we talked about, they really can help. And there are people out there that can help you to figure that stuff out. So don't give up. You're not crazy. Just you just got to learn to turn it.
The important thing is every person is going to be so individual in what does help them. And, you know, it can be very, I'm sure it's very frustrating for people, you know, that they'll read about different techniques or hear about different techniques, and they're still feeling massive anxiety, or they're still feeling really lost in, you know, what's going on around them. And, you know, and the thing is none of us have instantly been like that. I mean, we have to try different things that are going to be good for us. You know, it was really interesting. I'm not going to get too much into it, but I met the most fascinating person not very long ago, and it was just this young man. And as we were doing, no, we
maybe you're talking about me.
We were doing this reading, and I kept feeling something right here, and I said, "Look, something is going on, like right here, like right in this." And it's not a health issue. It's not. I said I feel just really drawn for whatever. Like I just keep getting drawn to this. And it turns out that this young man has taught himself all on his own how to release the energy of negativity. And he said what he would do is he would kind of bring it into the center of his heart and then just release it. And he was allowing this energy just to, literally be released. And he didn't hang on to it. He didn't give it much thought. He didn't think about it. And he taught himself this amazing method. But it was interesting because I could feel it. I could feel all of this power. It was like I want to say like a superhero, how they have the, some sort of crystal on their chest or whatever. That's what I felt. It was like this power center on him. And I was like, I have to ask about this. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I can feel this power. It's just like surging type of power. And it was so fascinating, when he told me that. And I was like, wow, for somebody that young to be able to, I mean, he was probably like early 20s or something like that. But to have that knowledge and awareness in yourself so strongly to be able to do that. And I was, blown away. But, here's the thing is that we all have that within us. We all know what it is that helps us feel better. But sometimes we do need a little bit of guidance. But, even if we're sometimes, just because somebody tells us to do something, if we're feeling drawn towards something else, then that other thing is probably going to be better for us.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't quite understand that. And they'll be like, yeah, but, my counselor, therapist, spiritual advisor, priest, Shaka Khan, whatever, told me to do this. Right. But they're not listening to their inner selves. But they'll be like, but I feel like, well, do that. Do what you're being drawn to do, because that's your body's way of resonating with its own healing.
Yeah, that's really, really true. I mean, a long time ago, I remember meeting someone in my life who was very influential, very calm. She just sort of exuded this peace. I can't even begin to describe it. And what she had said to me was, when you feel overwhelmed and if you meet other people who maybe express to you that there's all these voices coming at them and they don't know quite what to do, or they're in a situation where they have to feel hyper vigilant, like something is happening. It's either, paranormal issues are happening or they're hearing voices they can't quite understand. You have to talk to them and ask them what makes them grounded. So it's either, is it nature? Maybe earthing is a thing for you. Is it water? Because water is absolutely cleansing for some people.
For me, water would send me into a panic attack. See,
right.
and so for somebody to suggest that and insist that I need to jump in an ocean or a mat, it's kind of like this. It's so funny because sometimes I used to listen to guided meditations, and at the beginning of it, they'd be like, oh, you're swimming in the ocean. I literally would have like a panic attack and be like, the shark's going to get me. The shark's going to get, and I'd be like, okay, I'm done. And I'm stuck in a freaking fucking panic attack for another hour after that. Right. So again, but if I had listened, that would have been horrible for me to push through it. Like, as they say, push through. No, that wouldn't have been helpful for me.
If it doesn't,
I don't think it shouldn't be something that you have to force at all, right? Yeah. It should come relatively naturally, and that's why again that like for me, I don't like people talk about burning sage. Well, I'm allergic to sage, so please don't burn it around me. Maybe I'm a demon. I don't know. Like maybe that's the problem. But being able to have that self visualization not having a stroke, I swear. You know, that's the great thing about it, is you can kind of, it's super personal. You can personalize it for yourself. You know, the big thing is just that recognition. You know, and for me, like I said, I had no idea what was going on, and it took somebody else to explain it to me, which was awesome.
Which is good that you were open to listening to it, you know, and that's the main thing too, right? As long as the person giving the advice would have been open to you saying, look, I'm, like you said about the sage, I'm allergic to sage. Well, no, take it anyway. You know, but, and I know, you know, the funny thing is
that your demons. That's why you're sneezing all the time.
Yeah, we can laugh, but I tell you, like, you know, there have been people that have tried counseling others by, you know, like, and we were talking about this, like the paranormal scams or, you know, the spiritual scams. And, you know, it's like, well, I guess you just have to have sex with me then, and that will clear up all of your, you know, you get those spiritual gurus or whatever it is, or the cult leaders, you know, that are technically the spiritual, you know, leaders of stuff. But you know, but a lot of the times, like, they're not asking, like, what helps you, what makes you feel better. And like you were saying, Lynda, like, I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry.
No, you're right. I mean, it's interesting. A few years ago, or many years ago now, I went through a really tough time in my life, and I completely shut down. I had a complete mental breakdown, spiritual breakdown almost. I don't remember a month of my life. It was a really horrible experience. But I did ask for help. And my husband was amazing, and he arranged for me to see someone who was really good. And I think that really influenced my paranormal life going forward, and the way that I help people who are overwhelmed as well. Because what she did was she gave me a questionnaire. She gave me a checklist, and I was responsible for controlling that checklist. What makes you happy? What environments do you feel safe in? What environments do you not feel safe in? What things really speak to you? And you know, it was really great because it allowed me to go into myself, to stop all of the noise that was really bogging me down, and to concentrate and focus on those things that really did speak to me. So, and when I talk to people who tell me, oh my gosh, you know, I really think that I've opened up something. I don't know what's going on, but I'm hearing voices. I'm seeing things out of the corner of my eye. I can't sleep at night. I'm so hypervigilant. I don't know how to deal with this. How do I deal with this? I think it's helped because the first thing I say is, what will ground you? So what can you do to stop all of the noise, even for just a moment, so that you can focus on yourself, and you can focus on your breathing, and you can focus on things that make you feel safe, and forget about all of this extraneous noise. And you know, it really does help, because people who are haunted, people who feel that there's something there that they can't control, there is a lack of control. And when you can focus on those things that make you feel safe, and those things that you can control, then for some reason, all of those extraneous things somehow, I don't know, they lose, I don't know, they lose that sort of that I don't know what's going to happen aspect. You are able to control your environment so much better. And so many people will say, yeah, like I was able to speak to it and say, wait a sec, this is my house. This is my environment. I know that you're here, but this is my environment. And they're well able to sort of take control and let them know that this is their space.
Yeah.
They're not welcome to intrude. And it's amazing how these really meek people suddenly turn into these really, well, I won't say aggressive, but like people that are able to actually stand up for themselves. And that's so important. It's important in everyday life, but it's really important when you feel that lack of control in your environment. Something is there. You don't know what it is. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that's well said.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it, it's extremely important. It's funny, one of the things that, I mean, doing my job, I deal with a lot of people every day that are like in a high anxiety type of energy.
Yeah.
And they'll be so freaking anxious. Is he going to call? And I mean, it's over the things that, is he going to call? Well, why does he do this? Well, what exactly is he thinking? What color of underwear is he wearing? Like, it's the stupidest things. I'm sorry, but it really is. And I don't mean to, put that, I'm not trying to make fun of it in any way, but it can be overwhelming, and as an advisor, and you're like, let's just focus on the actual things that count rather than these little things that really have no bearing on, they'll get themselves caught into this. Well, how are they going to say this? And what are the words? And what are they thinking? And like literally there are people that want to know exactly what somebody is doing at that I'm like, I'm not a security camera. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's none of your, and quite honestly, it's none of your fucking business what they are doing in the first place. But they'll get themselves into this massive, thing of anxiety about it, right? And you're like, focus on you. Stop, and start focusing in on your center self. Like, you know what I mean? Because once you can do that, you realize that none of these little things matter. And if we can, another thing that really helps, especially when you're spiritually inclined and you do pick up on a lot of energies, what we tend to do is we tend to take everything and shove it into a big ball.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. So if you're having, let's say, money issues, relationship issues, job issues, car issues, I don't know, whatever issue, whatever, you know what I mean? And we take it all and we just go boom. And then you'll hear people say, oh, it's if it's not raining, it's pouring, or blah, blah, or, like it's that whatever kind of nonsense. And you're like, okay, stop. You know what? We all have, and you said something very, like at the beginning, Trevor, when I was talking about my foot, you were like, everybody does that. Everybody does that. And I mean, that's what people have to stop and realize. Everybody does that. Nobody's life is perfect. Nobody's sailing through life. I mean, they might have different issues that they're dealing with. And maybe to some people, those are trivial issues. And maybe there's other people that are like, thank God I'm not dealing, you know what I mean? Like, but to everybody, they're an issue, right? And that's where you have to stop and just go, okay, I'm going to focus in on me. I'm going to handle things one at a time. How do I fix my car? Okay, well, let's find out, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I got a flat tire. Well, fix the flat tire.
Yeah.
Simple.
One foot in front of the other.
Flat tire, right? And step one. And then, so what happens? That alleviates this. You got a shitty relationship, fix it. How do you fix it? Well, you either go, see ya, right? Or, you find a way to, maybe it's you. Like sometimes we just got to admit, hey, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one. Maybe I'm causing all of these issues. And if it's not, then, nobody else has that power to throw their crap onto you. Nobody should have that power to do so. Right. So that's where you go, see ya. Catch ya on the other side. Never again.
And that's why people put up barriers of protection. I mean, to bring it right back to where we started, that's why people do that, because nobody wants other people to get in their business. And once they start getting in their business, that's when wait a minute, this doesn't feel good. I got to build a fence. Right. Good fences make really good neighbors.
But I think it's important to have strong defenses or barriers. But the thing is, if we walk around always in a place of a barrier or a wall, how do we then, look at, we got to be open, because how are we going to receive miracles? Yeah. And people can scoff at that if they want, but how that's basically just walking around like this.
Yeah.
And you can't live your fucking life like that. You can't. Like, you can, but you're going to have a miserable life. But when you have a barrier, that's the energy that you're giving out, is just the, you know, and you want to be a grumpy cat, you can go be a grumpy cat. Like, you know what I mean? But your grumpy cat shouldn't be, you know, but then you can't sit there and claim that you want happiness. Or you can't claim you want this amazing relationship, but you're like, men suck. Men suck. Okay. All right, then. You go, whatever. You go to another planet and find something besides them, you know, besides what you're looking for. Right. Or, you know, but you get, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're dealing with this all the time and you're like, okay, you know, men suck. I'm never gonna find a man because they all suck, but I want a relationship. Good luck with that.
Yeah. But you can't be like one of those pushovers either. So you have
but having a barrier is it's just a matter of, like, being in a place of having that common sense, but also having that ability to just, you know, if something doesn't feel good, it's trusting your own intuition. So if something doesn't feel good, trust it.
Yes.
And I think that in itself is a really strong barrier, is our own intuition, right? Like, that is one of the strongest barriers, because you're looking at that and you know, when you approach somebody or when you meet somebody, you know, if you're feeling good, great, go with that, right? If they're trying to then sell, you know, if you live in what is it, you know, if you live in like a winter country and they're trying to sell you ice, well, maybe have some common sense and go, okay, look, I don't need your ice, dude, but you're a nice person. I just don't need your ice. We're good. We're good on not having the ice, right? And so you still have a barrier, but you're not cutting off, you know, the whole energy of it, right? And I think that that's so important. And same with, like, you know, when I used to do a paranormal investigation, I always had protection, but my protection, you know, if there was something that I needed to see or wanted to see, or if there was a way to better understand something for the client, then I allowed that to come through. And that was part of my, you know, personal prayer. And it was funny because through that's where I got to where I am right now and doing what I do for a living. Right. And so, you know, I still have protection, but there was, you know, it wasn't complete brick wall barriers around me, I guess is the best way to say it. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, I think it's great to have, we definitely need to feel safe. But if our safety is starting to cut off ourselves from, like I said, the miracles that just being alive can bring us every day. Right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's also important to understand that, you know, we all have different gifts. Everybody has different gifts. Everybody Absolutely. Has gifts. Everybody does. And they are a part of you, you know, and, you know, and in a lot of ways, it's like, you know, your heart or your legs or your, you know, your arms or whatever, you know, they require exercise to get stronger, you know, and so you got to use those gifts and those talents. And then that's what they were intended for in the first place. That's why you have them, is, you know, to help yourself, to help others, things like that. And so when we talk about closing ourselves off to those gifts, it's like tying one hand behind your back, you know, and trying to live your life. It just, you know, there's always going to be that part of you that's missing. And you won't ever feel that, you know, you'll feel that there's something missing. You know, the biggest key is being able to control it, you know, control, you know, that envisionment, and kind of like what Cathy was saying, you know, there's certain things that you can, you know, protect yourself from, but at the same time, you know, you can still bring in the good while, you know, keeping out the bad. And that's really important. And that was something that I had to learn as well, because I mean, there is a lot of negative energy out there, but I mean, once you start to learn that you can repel that, and you can bring in the good energy too, I mean, it's so much better than just walking off walled off all the time. Walking around walled off.
You know, it's funny because you know, sometimes what I'll do is, especially if I get into a place where I'm thinking, you know, you get a little bit down on humanity. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, whatever, for whatever reason, right? You know, some of the things that I'll do is I'll watch like America's Got Talent. Like, you know, you can go on, like, I know Facebook has a lot of those channels, or I'll go on an art channel, or I'll go on a comedian, because we as humans are fucking amazing. Like, we truly are, excuse my language, but like, we really are amazing. We have the most amazing talents. We have just, I mean, even just watching a bloody hockey game, I mean, those are, that in itself is just a talent that, you know, there's such a small percentage of the human population that can be that good. Or watch gymnastics, or watch, you know what I mean? Or watch somebody create art, or, you know, and then, you know, it's not so much always having to about dealing with the person or the people, but we can still have that absolute love for the human race without it being, you know, so restricted in whatever it is. My cousin, she posts these amazing videos, and these kids are in like Ethiopia, you know, and, you know, they're like in these massive third world countries, but they have this little YouTube channel, and they do the amazing dances and singing. And you just sit there and cry, because these kids, the talent in them is just unbelievably beautiful. And when we can bring that spark back to ourselves, we have to remember that there's nothing on the negative side that can start really coming through us, because that energy that we're carrying inside of us, you know, and especially with the happiness of watching something like that, it just radiates out. And that in itself just creates a wave of beauty and energy. And when you can get back into that place and you go, oh, that made me feel so good. Right?
It's really true. Oh my God, is that ever true? I mean, the Olympics just happened, and my chiropractor, actually, his daughter, Chloe Daniels, she was on the women's rugby sevens team, and they won silver. And it was the most incredible experience, because when I was watching the Olympics and I saw her, and I mean, she was incredible, and they won silver. And when I went back to get an adjustment to Dr. Nick, and I said, oh my gosh, congratulations. That was an incredible achievement. The energy in the room was so fascinating. I mean, it was
It just switches.
happy. It switches in an instant. And to know that someone has achieved this incredible goal, and that someone is so proud of her and what she's achieved, you realize that, you know, really anything is achievable. You just have to put mind to it, and you need to get into that headspace. That's so important. So important.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's funny, like when we just change that thought process, and even if it's a matter of visualizing for a few seconds, you know what I mean? They actually say 17 seconds. If you can hold that visualization a few times throughout the day, that in itself is so extremely powerful. But, you know, as humans, we tend to go, okay, I'm going to count to 17. but or we'll be like, okay, you know, we start thinking positively, and then our brain wants to, you know, and so what happens, we get frustrated because, you know, well, we tried it once, it didn't work, and that's it. But it's, you know, it takes time, right? I mean, literally the cycle is like, I think it's 28 days, 21 to 28 days, where it starts to affect the subconscious. Yes. And so when it's like a habit or a pattern, and when you can start creating that habit or that pattern, this is where that positivity really starts showing up and starts appearing in our lives. And, you know, especially with visualization, or even just being in a good place, like emotionally, right? Or vibrating on a higher level. Doesn't mean you have to sit there. And a lot of people will say, you can't be positive all the time. Well, nobody's saying you have to be positive all the time. Nobody said that.
Nobody is.
Right. And, you know, but what you can do is stop making everything negative.
Right. You got to get out of the negativity every once in a while. I mean, turn off CNN, turn off Fox News, take a break, you know, because I mean, and I, you know, it's kind of a joke, but I mean, I was one of those people. I was like, I want to know what's going on. Oh, what the heck, you know? Oh my gosh, and I was just getting so angry, you know, at everything, because it was like, just you know, right there in your face. But you know what? I turned it off. I actually deleted the apps off my phone.
Good.
You know, and you know, I don't feel any less informed, and I'm not so ticked off all the time at the world. You know, so you've got to take a break. You got to step back. So recognize when you're in situations, or you're watching something, or you're having a conversation, pay attention to your feelings. You know, if it's something that's making you angry, if it's something that's making you afraid or something like that, maybe you ought to change the conversation. You know, I mean, certain, of course, you know, for safety reasons, like, you know, we have senses for a reason, but you know, if we're constantly bombarding ourselves with negativity, then that's what we're going to have around us all the time, is just negativity.
Well, just before we go, I just wanted to say too, you know, a lot of people don't realize that the power is in us. And so, you know, if somebody, even if it's your best friend, or if it's your family or whatever, if somebody's bringing a lot of negativity or putting you into that place where you're feeling that anxiety or the fear or the anxiousness or the whatever it is, or, you know, for instance, you know, especially people that are miserable and lonely, they're the last people on earth that want to see you happy in a relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
And so those are not the people that you go to if you wanted relationship advice, because they're just going to be like, well, men suck, women suck, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? So you basically end up in a spiral, right? It's like a funnel, and it's hard to pull yourself out of that funnel. But, you know, that can happen with anything. You know, if you want to save money, you don't go to the piss poor person, right? You know, you go to somebody who is going to financially help you, or at least give you solid advice, right? If you want to, you know, work on your relationship, then you talk to somebody who's in a happy relationship. You know what? You might think that their advice is a little bit, you know, fruity or nonsense or whatever, but hey, they're the ones in a relationship and you're not. So I don't know, think about it that way. You know, right? Like that's a way to look at it. You know, doesn't mean you have to take all of their advice, but you know, but we can always say no. You know, and we can always say no. We have the power. So if somebody is being really negative, you can stop them and say, look, this is not acceptable for me. I don't want to hear this anymore. You know, it's like you said, take off the apps. Well, take off that person off your phone, right?
Yes.
At least take a break. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can take that step back, and
you know, and if they are a good friend, you need to find, maybe you find out, hey man, what's going on? You know, you just got all this, you've got a lot of negative vibes coming.
Right. And you know, and if they turn it around on you, or or something, then, you know,
there you go. So
maybe it's time to just walk away. The power is yours. And so, you know, survival tips is sometimes just deleting the app.
That's true. Put on those power bracelets.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us today. And again, we have a big announcement next week. We're so excited. So I guess we'll see you next week, and have an amazing few days. And, you know, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Stay positive.
Stay positive.